All right, so we have an article. I'm going to cover the news here. This is an article in The Hill. Does everyone know about The Hill? It's a news website, and they cover news. In this instance, dozens of Democrats joined the GOP in passing bill on fentanyl-related drug penalties. So, if anyone thought the Democrats were going to do anything good for once, the answer continues to be no, as Democrats are making the drug war worse. They are causing more fentanyl deaths. More people will die as a result of this, and they get to pretend as if they're solving something. So, once again, if Republicans are on board with any sort of drug-based legislation, it is always going to be bad. So, again, what happens when you make something illegal, right? It becomes in the purview of the black market. What happens when you increase penalties on something that is already illegal? What happens is anyone who's in the trade is going to be, just as a matter of self-selection, going to be more willing to engage in riskful behavior, which in this instance, considering it's a black market, is probably going to involve gangs and large amounts of guns, right? So giving people in these positions more power is not going to help anybody, as well as, do they really think they can actually crack down on fentanyl smuggling into the United States? So the only way to do so would be to inspect fully and thoroughly every single piece of incoming mail. I'm talking about letter envelopes. I'm talking about parcels. I'm talking about cargo. Every single piece of incoming mail into the United States would need to be thoroughly checked in order for fentanyl to actually be curbed in any real and significant way. Now, of course, I am not advocating for that, but what I am saying is, if they are not advocating for that, whatever they're pretending that they're doing is doing less than nothing, right? Really, all they're doing is adding more penalties for people, making it harder for people that are addicted to fentanyl to get help, making it harder for people to actually get out of this addictive behavior, as well as a lot of the social circles that organize around it. So, the GOP-sponsored Halt Fentanyl Act passed 289 to 133 with support from 74 Democrats who wanted to be on record as supporting legislation intended to crack down on the synthetic opioid crisis. Now, unintentional truth-telling here, this is a synthetic opioid crisis. What do I mean by that? It's made up. They made it up. Fentanyl has no inherent value when it comes to the black market. People are combining fentanyl with other drugs such as cocaine, meth, and heroin to get people addicted to fentanyl because it is cheaper to get fentanyl than the other ingredients, right? So I'm sure that there's some people that are like, man, I'm going to go try this fentanyl stuff. But most people are getting addicted to fentanyl because they were already addicted to another drug, and then the drug supply line that they got their stuff from has been poisoned, and then they become addicted to the poison, right? So again, this bill is not going to do anything about that. It's not going to change that. In fact, it's probably going to make it worse, right? But again, we live in this fucked up fantasy world where politicians can just do one thing and then pretend like the opposite is occurring because I guess people are too fucking stupid to do anything about it, I guess. I mean, that's pretty much what it boils down to. Republicans say fentanyl and fentanyl-related substances, FRS, I love that one, fentanyl-related substances, FRS, are pouring across the border. The legislation introduced by Rep. Morgan Griffith aims to curb overdose deaths and protect Americans by giving law enforcement the tools needed to fight those drugs. Now, again, this is the thing about the war on drugs, is we've been dealing with the full-scale war on drugs since the 1970s. Since the 1970s. Now, 1960s, you may or may not know, there was a lot of drug-related death in the 1960s, right? So, again, they used that as an opportunity to, there's a lot of people dying from drugs, And this is the Richard Nixon administration speaking. So people are dying from drugs, and us personally, we hate black people, we hate hippies, we hate people that don't like Vietnam, the Vietnam War. So what do? So people are dying of drugs, and we want to put black people in jail so that they can't vote. Right? So that's how we even got here in the fucking first place, because of a bunch of racist fucking people in the White House, right? And it's failed. It's failed. I mean, every single data point that you could possibly plot from, like, let's say 1950, 20 years before the Controlled Substances Act, right? Let's say 1950 all the way up until now. If you look at all sorts of any data metrics, people dying of overdoses, percentage-wise, people who are addicted to drugs, it's all worse. It's all worse. Every single aspect, every single metric is worse. And yet, 50 years into this awful project that has failed in every way, and Democrats are still on board with making more people die. They're thinking, wow, hundreds of thousands of people dying from fentanyl overdoses. Can we get 1 million? Can we get 2 million? I mean, COVID's kind of slowing down. We got to use something to kill these people. That's what Democrats are thinking. Now, again, you might be wondering, whoa, that's a little bit of an explosive thing. Do you really think Democrats are actually wanting to kill people? And guess what? I don't give a fuck whether or not they want to kill people, because actions speak louder than words. When you draft and sign on to legislation that has the direct impact of killing more people, I don't give a fuck if you're too dumb to realize it or not. If you are that dumb, you shouldn't be in that position. And then that turns into a shame on the voters situation. But hey, whatever. Let's keep going. Now, again, the only way you could fight fentanyl, I've already said this, but I want to say it again, is if you were to do mandatory inspections for every single piece of incoming mail into the United States of America, which, in my opinion, is fascism beyond any reproach. That is the only way you can get rid of fentanyl. Why? Because fentanyl is extremely potent in small doses, and it's extremely easy to transport. It's very light on weight. So, again, are they going to do that? I hope not. But either way, if they're not doing that, whatever it is that they're cutting around the edges is not going to do anything. But it's going to make them feel good, and maybe a couple more druggies are going to die in the process, which, let's be honest, Democrats, Republicans, Trump, Biden, one thing they all agree on is let's kill people addicted to drugs. Because people addicted to drugs don't matter to society. Society has decided, oh, you got addicted to a drug? Wait, is it sugar? Oh, if it's sugar, come right in. You're a normal person. Oh, you're addicted to drugs? Is it alcohol? Come right in. You're a normal person. Oh, you're addicted to drugs. Is it caffeine? Oh, that's normal. We're all addicted to caffeine here. What are you addicted to? Oh, heroin. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness gracious. Let me call the police. Oh, my God. You are such a criminal. Right? So, again, it's a bunch of hypocrisy from this country, but this country doesn't really give a fuck. You know, you might see popular support behind legalization of things like marijuana, and sometimes you may even see mushrooms have popular support in legalization. But when you ask an average person, should crystal meth be legal, they're going to say, of course not. Why? Because they've been brainwashed into hating their fellow person by racist people in the White House in 1970s, right? So again, like, it's just part of the culture to look down on people, to spit on homeless people, to spit on drug addicts. It's part of the culture. It makes people feel good, because if someone's life is in shambles, hey, at least they're not addicted to heroin. If someone's life is in shambles, hey, at least they're not homeless. So I'm going to walk along to my shitty minimum wage paying job, spit on the homeless people, spit on the drug addicts while I get there, because that way I get to maintain my position in the hierarchy. That is the average thought process of the American people. I'm not talking about politicians. I'm talking about people in this country. When you ask them if they have any empathy for toward people that are addicted to crystal meth, addicted to heroin, for example, they're probably going to say no, or they may throw something out there like, oh, they need help. Well, how do you help them? Oh, well, you know, we help them by sending them to a steel cage. Right, that's how you help people that are addicted to drugs. By locking them in a steel cage for an unknown period of time, right? That's certainly a great way to do things, you know. Or, better yet, we'll threaten them with a torture chamber, aka a steel cage, because they were addicted to drugs, unless they can give up the gangsters that sold them the drugs, which is again going to put their lives in danger. Okay, maybe you'll escape jail, but now you're going to need to spend the next 30 years in fucking witness protection. Congratulations, DEA. Congratulations, US. So anyway, I'm sick of this bullshit. All these fucking bills and all this law stuff that's just gonna harsher punishments, this and all that. It's a bunch of garbage. And again, if you really actually wanted to combat fentanyl overdoses, what you would do is legalize and regulate safe injection sites and drug production by the United States and the FDA, so that people can buy heroin without accidentally getting addicted to fentanyl. And again, all the data, regardless of your conspiratorial thinking, all the data from countries like Portugal and some even cities and states in the United States, and as well Canada is undergoing a lot of these experiments. All the data points to, when you legalize and regulate drugs, that drug overdoses go down. And again, the term overdose is also a misnomer. This is the thing. It is the year 2023, and people are still parading this overdose of fentanyl myth. There are 0 people on planet Earth, maybe, again, it's possible there's 1 or 2 people that may like fentanyl and not anything else, but there's almost nobody, right? If you were to do a statistical analysis, it would be less than 0.5% of people that are overdosing on fentanyl. What is happening is people are purchasing regular quantities of the drugs that they are used to, and then they are getting a bad batch that was poisoned with fentanyl, which again is going to put it over the threshold of what they are able and capable of doing, which is going to kill them. That is not an overdose. An overdose is when you take more than the amount that you know will end, an overdose is like, again, you have prescription pills that say take 2 pills, you take 30. That's an overdose, right? If you took 2 pills, but it happened that one of those pills was cyanide, that's not an overdose, that's poisoning. Now again, the media, okay? The media and Democrats and Republicans, politicians, they don't understand anything about the problem. So again, I'm going to listen to someone trying to, quote, keep us safe when they don't know the difference between poisoning and overdosing? Really? You don't know the difference between being poisoned and being overdosed? Okay? Those are 2 separate fucking things. You know what an overdose is? You have 3 too many tequila shots at your fucking birthday party and you wake up in a pile of puke. That's an overdose. Poisoning is when, again, instead of drinking tequila, you're drinking Windex in one of the shots, and then you puke up blood and die. Again, there is a difference between overdosing and poisoning, and until the media even pretends to start understanding that difference, I cannot take any of this shit seriously. But again, we live in an authoritarian fascist hellhole, and even Democrats have no problem with spitting on drug addicts because, hey, you know what? It makes them feel good. So, there you go.